Hello class, and welcome to our presentation, Teachings on War in the Bhagavad-Gita. So the first thing we'll do is we will do a summary of the Bhagavad-Gita, followed by a discussion of Krishna's teachings to Prince Arjuna. We'll learn who Krishna really is as he reveals his true identity to us. We'll talk about a few major teachings of the Bhagavad-Gita on war, and we will examine this issue of whether the Gita promotes religious violence. All right, so as we were kind of introduced to in the previous presentation, the setting of the Bhagavad Gita is on a battlefield at the opening of the war of the Mahabharata. And before the battle commences, Prince Arjuna has his advisor and chariot driver Lord Krishna drive his chariot between the lines of battle so that he may inspect the opposing army. And as they are between these two armies, something unexpected happens. Arjuna sees the faces of his relatives in the opposing army, and he says, "O Krishna, seeing my kinsmen standing with a desire to fight, my limbs fail and my mouth becomes dry, my body quivers and my hairs stand on end. The bow slips from my hand and my skin intensely burns. My head turns, I am unable to stand steady, and O Krishna, I see bad omens. I see no use of killing my kinsmen in battle." And he continues, "Alas, we are ready to commit a great sin by striving to slay our relatives because of greed for the pleasures of the kingdom. It would be far better for me if my cousin brothers kill me with their weapons in battle, while I am unarmed and unresisting." And shaken by the evils of war, Prince Arjuna lays down his bow and he refuses to fight in the battle. Shocked by Arjuna's refusal to fight, Lord Krishna encourages Arjuna to get up for the battle. And between these two massive armies, Lord Krishna begins to instruct the young prince so to convince him to fight the Kaurava. Now, how does Krishna instruct Prince Arjuna? What justifications does he use to encourage Arjuna to participate in the battle? Well, here is the first teaching that he proposes. Death and killing are an illusion. That is, Krishna teaches Arjuna that living beings possess an eternal, indestructible soul called the Atman. Hence, if Arjuna kills someone on the battlefield, they do not really die because the soul lives on as it experiences reincarnation. So although the body will be destroyed, the essence of the person, the Atman, will survive. Thus, death and killing are an illusion because when you slay the body, the essence of that person lives on and is reincarnated into another body as it experiences rebirth. In the words of Lord Krishna himself, "You grieve for those who are not worthy of grief, and yet speak words of wisdom. The wise grieves neither for the living nor for the dead. Just as the soul acquires a childhood body, a youth body, and an old age body during this life, similarly the soul acquires another body after death." And he continues, "The one who thinks that the spirit or Atman is a slayer, and the one who thinks the spirit is slain, both are ignorant, because the spirit neither slays nor is slain. The spirit is neither born nor does it die at any time. Just as a person puts on new garments after discarding the old ones, similarly the living entity or the individual soul acquires new bodies after casting away the old bodies." The second teaching that Krishna proposes to Arjuna is that the war of the Mahabharata is a righteous war. So for Lord Krishna, the Kaurava family are evil, as their behavior violates the universal laws of dharma or righteousness. Hence, the war of the Mahabharata is a moral war, a just war, and Arjuna, as a warrior, has a duty to help restore dharma. As Lord Krishna says, "Considering also your duty as a warrior, you should not waver like this, because there's nothing more auspicious for a warrior than a righteous war." Thirdly, Krishna teaches Arjuna that he has a God-given caste duty as a warrior to fight in battle. And when one dedicates themselves selflessly to their caste duty, it is good karma and can lead one to salvation. As Lord Krishna says again, do your duty to the best of your ability, O Arjuna, with your mind attached to the Lord, abandoning worry and selfish attachments to the results, and remaining calm in both success and failure. The selfless service is a yogic practice that brings peace and equanimity of mind. And lastly, Krishna teaches Arjuna that if he dies in battle while selflessly committed to his caste duty, he will be rewarded with eternal salvation. As Lord Krishna says, you will go to heaven if killed in the line of duty, or you will enjoy the kingdom on the earth if victorious. Therefore get up with a determination to fight, O Arjuna. Now, Lord Krishna reveals many teachings to Prince Arjuna, and the above are just kind of a few of the major teachings that he emphasizes. Now, as we approach chapter 4 of the Bhagavad-Gita, Lord Krishna reveals his true identity. Lord Krishna is what is called an avatar, or an earthly manifestation of Vishnu, the supreme being in the Bhagavad-Gita. And as the supreme being, Vishnu is the creator of the universe, the architect of the caste system, and the preserver of the laws of Dharma. And why has Vishnu come to earth as Krishna? Well, as Krishna says in chapter 4 of the Gita, whenever there is a decline of Dharma or righteousness and a predominance of Adama, unrighteousness, O Arjuna, then I manifest myself. I appear from time to time for protecting the good, for transforming the wicked, and for establishing world order. Hence, and this is an important point, Prince Arjuna is not being encouraged by a mere human being to fight in the battle. Rather, the young prince is being encouraged by God, God's self. For Krishna, as we learned, is an avatar of the supreme being, Vishnu. All right, now that we have a general summary of the Bhagavad Gita, as well as some exposure to the major teachings of Lord Krishna, let's review 3 major points regarding the Bhagavad Gita's perspective on war. Point 1. According to Lord Krishna, there are times when war is justified. That is, as you might remember from our reading, there were attempts at diplomacy to avoid war, but when those attempts failed, war was inevitable. And for Lord Krishna, sometimes war is just, sometimes it is moral, and it has to be done. The second point, members of the Kshatriya or warrior caste have a duty to uphold the laws of Dharma in battle. So again, Prince Arjuna is of the warrior caste, he is a Kshatriya. And according to the Gita, members of the Kshatriya do have a duty to fight in those battles when necessary to uphold Dharma. And lastly, if a Kshatriya dies in battle while selflessly dedicated to their duty, they will experience moksha or salvation. So by engaging in battle for the sake of Dharma, there is a potential salvific effect to that decision. Now, with this in mind, it is not uncommon that the Gita is accused of encouraging religious violence. So why is this the case? Well, for one, Krishna's teaching that killing is an illusion, many would argue, devalues human life, making it emotionally easier to kill people in times of war. So if I'm behind a machine gun and I'm shooting at people of the opposing army, it is easier for me to kill them because I think, hey, their soul will live on and they'll be reincarnated into a new body. No big deal. Secondly, many would argue that the promise that Arjuna will experience salvation if he dies in battle can encourage religious extremism. So if I believe that I have a God-given duty to go into battle and that I will experience salvation if I die, then it further encourages me to engage in warfare. And thirdly, since Lord Krishna reveals himself to be the supreme being, one can argue that the Gita supports the idea of God-sanctioned violence. So as we wrap up this presentation, here's a question for us to consider. Given what you know about the Bhagavad-Gita, is this a fair criticism? Is the Bhagavad-Gita guilty of encouraging religious violence? If this question speaks to you, by all means, tackle it in your homework assignment this week.